You may have already seen the
Good morning, welcome to CATEX-TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. This is a live broadcast from Princeton, New Jersey. Today is Thursday, September 23rd, 2010. It's 11:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time in the U.S. It's 4:30 p.m. in London, 12:30 in Bermuda, and 10:30 in Mexico City. If you need to reach us during the broadcast, you can phone in toll-free at 1-866-67-CATEX. Overseas, our AOL instant mail address is CATEX-TV. A couple of little economic stories came out. We're going to lead with our main story about the U.S. jobless numbers increasing unexpectedly. However, right after they came out, two other economic stories came out. Existing home sales increased 7.6% during the month of August, and then the leading U.S. economic indicators went up 0.3% during the month of August. Now, that means the stock market, which had been down, the futures had been down about 60 points after the unemployment news. The stock market itself is now up about 6 points right now. Who can figure it out? We'll now go to our main story, which is the unemployment number. New U.S. claims for unemployment benefits unexpectedly rose last week, continuing to highlight labor market weakness. Initial claims for state unemployment benefits increased 12,000. Up to 465,000. Analysts had been expecting it to remain unchanged at 450,000. As I said, that's now been somewhat offset by the increase in the sale in existing homes, as well as the 0.3% increase in the leading U.S. economic indicators. Well, here's a UPS 747-400, exactly the same type that crashed at the Dubai airport last year, and now the United Arab Emirates investigators into that crash is focusing on the risks posed by the freight carried aboard the cargo plane. This is, of course, after the flight data recorder indicated that smoke or fire was coming from the cargo hold. The country's General Civil Aviation Authority says that flight data showed alarms had warned of smoke or fire in the 3-year-old plane's freighter's main deck and the lower aft cargo compartment. The statement this morning said that the cargo plane's pilots struggled to see their primary flight instrument displays as thick smoke filled the cockpit. Investigators had previously pointed to visibility and communication problems in the September 3rd crash. The Dubai authorities are saying that it appears that the plane was mainly carrying electronic equipment. New York State's insurance department is in the news. They're considering the creation of a catastrophe pool that would be funded by private insurers. Michael Moriarty, the deputy superintendent of the state insurance department, said yesterday that the pool would cover disaster claims from the state's coastal properties and would be funded from the 2 to 5% of policyholder premiums that are already assessed for disasters. Currently, New York insurers are allowed to book these funds as profits, provided that there are no disasters in the policy's term. Many carriers in the state have dropped coverage for customers most susceptible to storm damage. Superintendent James Rinn said that the pool that is being considered would, over time, accumulate resources that could be used to help cover the cost of a CAT and reduce the need for a large premium increase after the catastrophe. A panel on homeowners insurance will meet on October 13th to review the proposal. Insurance Day had a long article this morning featuring our friend Richard Ward, the CEO of Lloyd's. Mr. Ward said that Lloyd's will remain the global center for insurance and reinsurance despite the efforts of politicians and regulators. Hopefully that was a little bit tongue-in-cheek. He said that there were, however, a number of things that the market needed to do in order to ensure its excellent position. They include supporting the broker community, upon which the market is entirely reliant, he said, as well as to ensure that Lloyd's had an appropriate regulatory and taxation regime in place. Last week, for example, Ward said that the decision to axe the Financial Services Authority was ill-conceived and ill-thought out. He said that regarding brokers, he said Lloyd's is a broker market and we need partners overseas and global brokers overseas to bring business here to London. We need to make sure we continue to deliver what the brokers want because brokers do have choices. It's pretty straightforward. He said we have got to make sure that we have the right capacity in the market and we need to make sure that we have the underwriting skills to write the complex risks that we have. By doing that, I'm pretty sure, he said, that Lloyd's will retain its unique quality as the only insurance market in the world. Now, this is very interesting. Our market, Dr. Ward said, is not replicated anywhere else. Let's not forget that. In the U.S., you do not have an insurance market. I know they are trying to do that in New York, but that market is spread around cities such as Houston, Chicago, and New York. Presumably, he's talking about the New York Insurance Exchange effort. In Europe, he said, you don't really have any true center in the sense that we have here, that extraordinarily critical mass that we have in the London marketplace. Dr. Ward is no doubt correct. You can throw a stone as far as you can throw it from the center of the Lloyd's floor, the Luton Bell, assuming there were no walls, and you could hit more market capacity than you could hit if you were standing in Times Square, standing at the Bermuda Cultural Center, or standing in the center of Zurich. However, electronic transfer of data is something that needs to be considered. If I was a broker lugging wheelbarrows filled with folders and binders, Dr. Ward would have a very, very good point. We'll see. This is, of course, the nub of the issue. Well, our friends down in Bermuda, Altera, the company that was formed from the merger of Max Re and Harbor Point, announced this morning that they are going to issue an offering of $350 million of senior notes that are going to mature 10 years from now in 2020. The issuance is being made under an existing shelf registration statement. The net proceeds from the offering will be used to repay a $200 million revolving loan outstanding under a credit agreement from Harbor Point when they took them in. The remaining proceeds will be used for general corporate purposes. Fitch has assigned a BBB+ rating to the $350 million issue. The notes are unsecured. Stock market in New York is up about 5.8 points, and we'll go to a word from our sponsors. Good pick. Forecaster Weather Services International, which is a subsidiary of the Weather Channel, announced today that it has increased its predictions for major hurricanes in this season, the 2010 season, after Hurricanes Julia and Carl surprised forecasters by developing into major storms last week. Weather Services International now predicts 6 intense hurricanes for this season. That's Category 3 or better. Here's the statement. Relative to our August 10th statement, we have increased the expected number of intense hurricanes by 1, specifically due to the somewhat surprising attainment of major hurricane status by Julia and Carl last week. Quote, after a relatively slow start, the tropical season has gone, quote, supernova during the past few weeks, with 5 major storms occurring within the last 3 weeks, a historically unprecedented event. Listen to this. Although the primary storm track, the meteorologists say, has been for storms to approach the eastern U.S. seaboard before recurving out to sea, there are indications that this pattern is changing and that the danger to the U.S. coastline may be increasing going forward. Let's take up the map. Here's today's map. You see that what we're looking at is there's a pretty good-sized tropical depression over very, very northeast Venezuela and northwest Venezuela, northeast Colombia. That's going to bring some very drenching rain to northern Colombia and the southern part of the Panama Isthmus there. it's unlikely to develop into a major event. Lisa, all the way off there on the east, has now been downgraded. It's got winds of about 40 miles per hour. This is the one that we've been watching. It may pick up some strength as it continues to chug away across that warm water, but nothing yet. Well, this is an interesting story. US Re, the American broker, has a European subsidiary. The European subsidiary, called US Re APS, has been selected by the Danish government to conduct a study of terrorism risk reinsurance capacity in the Danish market. Reinsurers operating in Denmark are being asked to advise US Re of the amount of reinsurance they'd be willing to commit to a pool of funds covering property insurance in the event of nuclear, biological, chemical, and radiological risks to buildings, railroad vehicles, motor, and marine hull in Denmark. US Re's managing director said that the participating companies will have access to a Danish government guarantee limit to 15 billion Danish kroners annually. Findings of the study are due to the Danish government on October 1st, which is in 8 days. Well, in France again today, commuters are squeezing into limited numbers of trains. They're fighting for rare parking spots. There's a massive round of strikes around the country protesting Nicolas Sarkozy's plan to raise the retirement age all the way to 62. Fewer than half of the Paris metro lines are working normally. France's long-distance trains are running at about 50% frequency. Many flights have been canceled at Charles de Gaulle and Orly airports. Post offices and even opera houses have been hit too. Security was higher than usual at some metro stations. Soldiers with machine guns have been reported on patrol. Remember, the other day we reported that France is warning of an imminent suicide terrorist attack in the Parisian metro. 232 demonstrations are being planned nationwide today. Well, we didn't report this 2 or 3 weeks ago when it happened, but there was a collision in the South China Sea between a Chinese trawler and not one but 2 Japanese Coast Guard vessels. And the Japanese, minor damage, there were no injuries, minor property damage to the Navy vessels. The Japanese apprehended the Chinese captain of the trawler and are holding him for questioning. The Chinese have been very mad about this. It's even reached the level of the prime minister level. Now they've taken another step, and this is a fascinating story. I had no idea that the American economy and military was as possibly directly affected by what may come out of this. The Chinese government has now blocked exports to Japan of a crucial category of minerals used in products like hybrid cars, wind turbines, and guided missiles. Chinese customs officials are halting shipments to the Japanese of so-called rare earth elements, preventing them from being loaded aboard ships this week at Chinese ports. On Tuesday, the Chinese Prime Minister personally called for Japan to release the captain who was detained after his vessel collided with 2 Japanese Coast Guard ships as he supposedly was fishing. A spokesman for the Chinese Commerce Ministry declined this morning to comment on their trade policy. News agencies continue to say that there has been a de facto embargo instituted by China and not putting any rare minerals on ships heading to Japan. China mines 93% of the world's rare earth minerals and more than 99% of some of the world's supply of the most prized rare earth minerals, which sell for several $100s a pound. The Japanese government said that they had repeatedly asked China not to restrict its exports of rare earth elements, citing the severe consequences such a move would have on global production and trade. Japan has been the main buyer of these minerals for many years. They use them for many industrial purposes, such as making solar panels, small steering control motors in cars, as well as in motors that help propel hybrid cars. American companies